Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through all the books that I plan to read before the end of the year. The end of the year is approaching so fast, and that means you've got to try and plan what books you really want to bash out for the rest of the year. So these are mine. I have 10 books that I want to that are my priority to get through before the end of the year, but I also am going to pick two from my trusty little TBR hedgehog who's going to choose some for me. Should I do it at the end? Actually, no. I'll do it now. I'll do it now. This top doesn't really work with a mic, but we move. Okay, so little TBR jar. This is my first time using it, so we'll see how this goes. I have to like pour it out because last time I realized that my hand doesn't actually fit. Okay, so oh my god, two fell out. Oh. Maybe we should just do these two. They obviously wanted to come out. The two fell out, so we're gonna go for these. A book that you don't remember buying. Wow, there's so many that work for this. This works so well because I'm trying to read the books that have been on my TBR for ages. Okay, so for that, I'm gonna go for The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. This is going on my TBR officially before the end of the year. This one's been on my TBR for ages. I don't remember where I got it from. I don't remember why I even picked it up in the first place, other than it's a fantasy that was quite popular. So this is the first book officially going on here. It's kind of a fantasy about an assassin, and he needs to kind of give up his identity to try and fit in with this assassin's guild, I think. So that's our first book. Okay, the next one is a classic you've been avoiding. I had the perfect book for this that I was hoping to read anyway, and that is The Wide Sargasso Sea. That's upside down. The Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. This is a kind of prequel to Charlotte Bronte's classic Jane Eyre about Sir Rochester and his life and the people around him before Jane kind of gets on the scene. So I haven't been off this off for so long, but it's so short, so I don't know why. And I've got this lovely like Penguin Classics edition. So I'm finally going to get around to this by the end of the year. It's so short, like I can do it. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, other books on my TBR. This has been on my TBR for so long. If I haven't read this by the end of the year, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I don't feel like I should be able to call myself a fantasy fan if I don't pick up and start reading a Brandon Sanderson. He just is, you know, such a big name in fantasy. So I really need to read this if I want to call myself a fantasy fan. I've started it, as you can see, but I haven't really got too far into it. Kind of a fantasy about different elemental magics. Like I think they use like metals, and it's kind of like, it says like what happens if the kind of Dark Lord won. And next up, I have two books from the same author, Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This I want to just get to. I just want to get out of the way because I've started the duology. I can complete the duology. That's how I'm kind of like pushing myself to just get it done, to like read it. It sounds like I'm trying to force myself to read books, but I promise you I do want to actually read them. I just need to stop putting it off and finish this duology because then I'll complete the duology. It'll just be done. So this is the sequel to Ninth House, which is like a dark academia kind of like ghost society kind of thing. We follow a main character, Alex, who can see ghosts, and she kind of oversees these paranormal societies. And this follows on straight from the last one, which was left on such a big cliffhanger. So why am I not getting to this book? Obviously, once you finish one duology, you might as well just start another duology. So I want to get to Six of Crows because, again, like Brandon Sanderson, this is such a like iconic kind of fantasy book that I feel like I hear so much about, and I just want to know what the hype's about. I just want to get to know what happens. So as far as I'm aware, this is kind of like a fantasy heist book, different like audible cast of character kind of band together for a heist that's going to change their lives in this fantasy world. And I mean, it sounds interesting. It sounds really good. I'm back to holding the mic. So the end of the year kind of like feels, so it's such a fantasy vibe to me. So I also want to read Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, which I've heard really good things about. I've never read any of T. Kingfisher's fantasy books. I've read loads of her horror, most of her horrors, if not all of her horrors. And I've read some of her like fairy tale kind of retellings, but I feel like I haven't read any of her fantasy, and I really want to try it out because I love her horror and I love the kind of fantastical elements that she adds into her horror. So I can really see myself loving her fantasy books. I've just heard really good things about this, about how it's kind of cute and it's like kind of a cute romance. There's kind of like a cute romance going on in this fantasy world. So I thought it'd be like a nice little introduction. I think it's about a paladin who meets a girl in an alleyway, and then they kind of band together on some kind of adventure. I don't know too much, and I don't really want to go into it knowing too much. If you've read any of T. Kingfisher's fantasy, let me know what your favorites are and if this is a good place to start. I've got this on hold at the library, so I'm going to try this one. If you've read any of her other fantasies, let me know what your thoughts are, or like reading order or anything like that. Next up in my mission of trying to clear out my TBR and the books that have been there on the longest, the books that have been on there the longest, we have a Battle Royale, which is a chunky book that I've had on my TBR for ages. And you know what? Before the end of the year, we're getting in there before January, and we're changing things. I'm getting over my big book fear. We're gonna tackle this book and we're gonna love it. It's a dystopian novel that's translated from Japanese. I think it was written before The Hunger Games, and it's kind of like the inspiration for The Hunger Games, I think. It follows this high school class that are kind of put onto this island, I believe, and they're kind of forced to kill each other until there's one person left standing. I don't know why, but I feel like it's going to be a bit darker and more gruesome than The Hunger Games. I've been interested in reading this for so long. Back in the like dystopian era of like 2013, 2014 booktube, so I really should get this read. Okay, and then on a similar note, I also have Never Let Me Go, which is another kind of dystopia book set in this school setting, like a boarding school, and we follow these characters who are kind of like, they're kind of in this school and they never talk about anything outside of the school, and it's kind of very, very isolated, and they only learn what they are told. And they kind of start to realize that something more sinister is going on and start to question things, which sounds really interesting. Pretty sure I was meant to read this for university. That's maybe why I have it. I want to get this one read. It sounds interesting, and maybe I'll be on a little dystopia kick, you know, from 10 years ago, bringing back the 2014 dystopia vibes. And then I've been trying to read more horror from women authors. So first of all, I was driven by the cover, and then I picked it up because I saw that it was a queer Frankenstein retelling, and I was like, okay, I'm sold. That's all I really need to know, and that's kind of all I would already know. It says, Our Hideous Progeny is a sumptuous tale of ambition and obsession, of forbidden love and sabotage, an adventure story that blends classic immersive storytelling with contemporary themes, which, if there's anything that sounds like a book for me, it's that description. So that sounds really interesting, and I really want to read it, and it's on my Kindle, so it'll be so easy to read as well. I'm loving reading on my Kindle at the moment as well. I'm just loving it. It's just so easy to read in bed. It's so much more comfortable than holding like a physical book. Maybe that's why I haven't read my big books too, because they're heavy. And then finally, I haven't really had any festive books come up that have really piqued my interest this year. I might add another one at some point. There's just not really any that I'm too interested in, but I did come across one which was also on Kindle for 99p, and it's called The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter, which is a kind of cozy mystery rom-com romance. So I'm kind of like trying to mix the genres. So it's not just like, you know, a festive romance that I don't really always get on with. And it's not just like a cozy mystery, which I haven't really read. But this one just sounded interesting. So this is kind of my festive read for the year that I'm hoping to get to. Also, I really like the cover. They're like hugging a Christmas tree, which just screams festive to me. And I think that's actually everything. Those are all the books I'm hoping to get read by the end of the year. Fingers crossed I'll do it. It's kind of mid-November, so I mean, I should have really done this at the start of the month, but we're rolling with it. These are the books I'm going to try and get read. I'll just get the feeling of so much accomplishment if I read these books. There's some duologies to finish, duologies to start, just to know, you know, be chaotic, and also some long books, some books that have been on my TBR for so long and just generally been on my TBR for so long. So yes, let me know if you've read any of these books, and let me know your thoughts on any of these books, if you've read them, if you want to read them. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see some more. So it's goodbye from me and Mr. Hedgehog. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Why does he sound like Mickey Mouse? Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. I think this is the biggest physical book stack I've ever held up. Trying to take me out. I'm sorry I haven't read you.